In the heart of a vast and vibrant African kingdom, where golden savannas stretch endlessly under the warm sun, and the air is alive with the hum of ancient traditions, lies a story waiting to unfold. This kingdom, rich with history and brimming with culture, is ruled by a wise and benevolent king. The people live in harmony, celebrating the beauty of their land through music, dance, and stories passed down for generations. Amid this colourful backdrop lives Nia, a young woman whose gentle heart and sharp mind set her apart. Nia's beauty is not just skin deep. Her kindness and resilience radiate from her in every gesture. However, her life has not been without hardship. She lost her mother at a tender age, leaving her father, Ao, a prosperous merchant, as her sole guardian. Despite the pain of her mother's absence, Nia grew into a compassionate and intelligent young woman, loved by her father and admired by those around her. But life takes a dark turn when Ao decides to remarry, seeking companionship and a mother figure for Nia. Enter Zula, a woman of striking beauty but a heart full of envy and malice. Zula's charming facade wins Ao over, but beneath the surface, her intentions are anything but noble. She brings along her daughter, Amale, a girl spoiled by her mother's indulgence and taught to view the world as hers to conquer, regardless of who gets hurt along the way. It doesn't take long for Zula's true colours to show. She harbours a deep, burning jealousy toward Nia. Nia's natural beauty, intelligence, and the unwavering affection her father shows her ignite Zula's insecurities. She sees Nia not as a stepdaughter, but as an obstacle, one that must be removed for her daughter Amale to rise. Zula's envy festers in secret, driving her to concoct subtle yet cruel ways to diminish Nia's shine. She begins planting seeds of doubt in Ao's mind, whispering lies about Nia's supposed arrogance and irresponsibility. Slowly but surely, Zula works to isolate Nia, pushing her into the shadows of her own home. Meanwhile, Amale becomes Zula's pawn, groomed to believe that she is destined for greatness. Zula's ambition knows no bounds. She dreams of Amale marrying into royalty, securing a future of luxury and power. But for that dream to come true, Nia must be entirely erased from the picture. The stage is set for a tale of betrayal, resilience, and poetic justice. Zula's plans are beginning to take shape, and Nia's world is about to be turned upside down. But what Zula doesn't know is that the very traits she despises in Nia, her kindness, her inner strength, and her unyielding spirit, will ultimately become the weapons that lead to her downfall. The winds of fate are shifting, and as the kingdom watches, a quiet storm is brewing, one that will change the lives of these women forever. Zula's true nature began to reveal itself in subtle but cruel ways, turning Nia's once warm and loving home into a place of silent torment. Zula, now firmly in control of the household, treated Nia as nothing more than a servant. From the crack of dawn, Nia was forced to scrub floors, cook meals, and tend to the livestock, while Amale, Zula's daughter, lounged in luxury, her every whim indulged. The disparity was glaring, yet Nia bore the injustices with quiet dignity, her spirit refusing to break under Zula's oppressive reign. Beyond the walls of their home, Zula's schemes extended into the village. Whispering poison into the ears of neighbors, she spread rumors that Nia was cursed, an ill omen to anyone who befriended or loved her. Tales of bad luck and misfortune, supposedly tied to Nia, began to circulate, and while some villagers believed the lies, others saw through Zula's bitterness. Quietly, they admired Nia's unwavering kindness. Despite the cruelty she endured, she continued to help those in need, whether it was delivering food to the elderly or tending to injured animals. Slowly but surely, Nia won their hearts, though she remained unaware of the quiet support growing around her. One fateful day, the kingdom buzzed with excitement as a royal announcement spread like wildfire. The king was hosting a grand ball. It was no ordinary celebration. It was an opportunity for his son, the handsome and noble Prince Themba, to find a bride. Eligible young women from every corner of the kingdom were invited to attend. their families eager to present their daughters to the prince in hopes of a royal match. To Zula, this was the chance of a lifetime. She saw the ball as her golden ticket to elevate Amali to royalty, ensuring a life of luxury and influence for both of them. Amali, though beautiful, lacked Nia's grace and intelligence, but Zula was determined to mask her flaws. She spared no expense, commissioning the finest dressmakers and jewelers to adorn her daughter. Every detail, from Amali's shimmering gown to her intricately braided hair, was crafted to perfection. Zula's ambition burned brighter than ever, and she became laser-focused on her plan. But there was one problem: Nia. Even in rags, her beauty and grace outshone Amali's superficial charm. Zula knew that if Nia attended the ball, the prince's eyes would surely fall on her. This was a risk Zula couldn't take, and so she set her sights on ensuring Nia's absence from the event. Days before the ball, Zula began her sabotage. She accidentally spilled dye on one of Nia's only decent dresses, rendering it unwearable. She sold off a small piece of jewelry that belonged to Nia, claiming it was for the household expenses. She even feigned concern, telling Nia that the ball was no place for a girl like her, that she would only embarrass herself if she went. Nia, though hurt by the words, did not let them see her tears. On the evening of the ball, Zula delivered the final blow. As Amali prepared in her glittering gown, Zula handed Nia a mountain of chores, ensuring she would be too busy to even think about the event. Nia, exhausted and dressed in her simple clothes, watched as the carriage carrying Zula and Amal disappeared down the road, its wheels kicking up dust that settled like a heavy weight in her chest. Sitting alone in the quiet house, lit only by the soft glow of a single candle, Nia felt the sharp sting of hopelessness. Yet even in her darkest moments, she refused to let bitterness consume her. Little did she know that the universe had other plans for her, plans that would not only defy Zula's schemes, but would also change the course of her life forever. The evening of the ball arrived, and the house stood eerily quiet. Nia sat by the window, her hands still sore from the endless chores Zula had forced upon her. She watched the faint glow of lanterns in the distance, imagining the grand festivities she had been barred from. The sound of laughter and the faint hum of drums from the village only deepened the ache in her heart. Yet, even in her sadness, she refused to let resentment take root. She whispered to herself, reminding her soul of its strength, even as tears traced silent paths down her cheeks. As the night deepened, a soft knock echoed through the stillness of the house. Nia, startled, quickly wiped her face and made her way to the door. Standing there was an old woman, her clothes tattered, her eyes tired but kind. The woman looked up at Nia with a weak smile and asked, "Child, I am weary from my travels and have nowhere to rest. Could you spare me a meal and a place to sit for a while?" Despite her own struggles, Nia's heart swelled with compassion. She welcomed the woman inside and led her to the small kitchen. With what little she had, Nia prepared a warm meal, a bowl of porridge and a piece of bread, and placed it before the woman. "It's not much," Nia said softly, "but you are welcome to it." The old woman ate with gratitude, her eyes watching Nia intently. After the meal, Nia offered the woman a place to rest by the fire. "You must be tired. Please stay here for the night," Nia said, her voice filled with genuine care. The old woman smiled, her expression softening as if she saw something extraordinary in Nia. "You have shown me great kindness, child, even when you have little for yourself," the woman said, her voice steady yet layered with an otherworldly resonance. "Such a heart deserves to be rewarded." Before Nia could respond, the woman stood, her frail appearance shifting. A radiant light began to surround her, illuminating the room in hues of gold and silver. Nia gasped as the old woman transformed before her eyes, her tattered clothes replaced by a shimmering robe adorned with intricate patterns of the stars. Her face, once lined with age, now glowed with ageless beauty. "I am no ordinary beggar," the the woman revealed, her voice now echoing like a melody. "I am a guardian spirit, sent to guide and protect those with pure hearts. Tonight, my child, you shall have your chance to shine." With a wave of her hand, the room filled with a soft, magical hum. Before Nia, a stunning gown began to materialize. The fabric shimmered like moonlight, adorned with intricate African beadwork that seemed to tell stories of ancestors long past. Every bead sparkled, each one placed with precision and purpose. Next, the spirit turned to Nia's feet. In place of her worn sandals appeared a pair of beautifully handcrafted ones, their straps woven from golden threads and embellished with delicate beads that glimmered with every movement. "But how will I get there?" Nia asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. The spirit smiled and stepped outside. With another wave of her hand, the air shimmered, and before them appeared a magnificent golden chariot. It glowed softly, as if lit from within, and was pulled by a pair of enchanted animals, a majestic lion and a graceful gazelle, their coats gleaming with ethereal light. The animals seemed calm, their eyes filled with an almost human intelligence. Nia stood speechless, overwhelmed by the beauty and magic unfolding before her. The guardian spirit stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You are destined for greatness, Nia, but remember this. The magic will only last until midnight. You must return home before the clock strikes 12, or everything will return to how it was." Nia nodded, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "Go now," the spirit said with a warm smile. "The world is waiting to see the light that you carry within you." With that, Nia stepped into the chariot, her heart brimming with hope for the first time in what felt like forever. As the enchanted animals began their graceful run, the chariot lifted slightly off the ground, gliding effortlessly toward the royal palace. Nia held onto the edges, the wind playing with her hair as she marveled at the beauty of the night. For the first time in years, she felt free. Free from Zula's cruelty, free from the weight of sadness, and free to dream of a brighter future. Little did she know, this magical journey was not just about attending a ball. It was the beginning of a destiny that would change her life, and the lives of many others, forever. The royal palace shimmered in the moonlight, its grand halls alive with music and laughter. Guests adorned in the finest garments from across the kingdom filled the room, their conversations weaving through the air like a symphony. As the chariot approached the palace gates, Nia took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She stepped out gracefully, her gown catching the light, its intricate beadwork shimmering like a constellation. The moment she entered the ballroom, time seemed to pause. Every eye turned to her, the crowd parting as if by an unseen force. Whispers of awe rippled through the room. "Who is she?" murmured one guest. "A goddess in human form," said another. Nia, though nervous, walked with quiet confidence, her humility shining through her radiant beauty. Prince Themba, standing at the far end of the hall, felt his gaze drawn to her as if by fate. Tall and regal, with a commanding presence, he had been enduring the evening's pleasantries with little enthusiasm, until now. The moment he saw Nia, it was as though the air itself shifted. Without hesitation, he began making his way toward her, his heart pounding with an unfamiliar urgency. Amala and Zula, stationed near the center of the room, noticed the prince's sudden interest. Amala's face twisted with jealousy as she watched him move toward the mysterious newcomer. "Who does she think she is?" Amala hissed under her breath. Zula, equally infuriated, narrowed her eyes. "Whoever she is, she won't outshine you. Not while I'm here." The prince reached near, his eyes locked on hers. "I don't believe we've met," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "I'm Prince Themba." Nia curtsied gracefully, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's an honor, Your Highness." Themba extended his hand, his gaze never wavering. "May I have this dance?" The room seemed to hold its breath as Nia placed her hand in his. The orchestra began to play, and the two moved seamlessly across the floor, their steps in perfect harmony. The guests watched in stunned silence, captivated by the pair. As they danced, Themba felt an unexplainable connection to Nia. Her presence was like a beacon, drawing him in with every word and movement. "You are unlike anyone I've ever met," he said softly. "There's a grace and strength about you that I can't ignore." Nia smiled, her eyes meeting his. "And yet, Your Highness, it's not my appearance that matters. A kingdom is only as strong as its people, and a true ruler serves those who cannot serve themselves." Themba was taken aback by her wisdom. "You speak as though you've lived a life far beyond these walls." Nia hesitated, her heart aching with the weight of her truth. She longed to share her story but knew she couldn't. Instead, she said, "Life has its challenges, but they shape us into who we are meant to be." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, each word deepening the bond between them. Themba was mesmerized, not just by her beauty, but by her intellect, humility, and strength. Meanwhile, Zula seethed in the corner, her plan unraveling before her eyes. She nudged Amale forward. "Go! Interrupt them! Make him see you!" Amale approached the pair with a forced smile. "Your Highness, may I have the next dance?" Themba barely glanced at her, his attention wholly on Nia. "Forgive me, but I'm afraid my current dance isn't over," he said politely but firmly. Humiliated, Amale turned to Zula, her face flushed with anger. "Do something." Zula, determined to regain control, approached the prince herself. "Your Highness, might I introduce my daughter Amale? She is the finest young woman in the kingdom, a perfect match for someone of your stature." Themba frowned, his patience thinning. "Madam, I appreciate your concern, but I believe I am capable of making my own choices." Zula's face darkened as she realized her attempts to sway the prince were failing. Meanwhile, the crowd, noticing the interaction, began murmuring in favor of Nia. "She's remarkable," someone whispered. "She belongs by his side," said another. As the night wore on, Nia and Themba continued to dance and converse, their connection deepening with each passing moment. For the first time in years, Nia felt truly seen, not as a servant, not as a victim, but as someone worthy of love and respect. But as the clock neared midnight, the guardian spirit's warning echoed in Nia's mind. She glanced at the ornate clock on the wall, her heart sinking as the hands crept closer to 12. Panic set in. "I must go," she said abruptly, pulling away from the prince. Themba looked at her, confused. "What's wrong? Did I say something to upset you?" "No," Nia said, her voice trembling. "You've been nothing but kind, but I cannot stay." Before he could stop her, she turned and fled, weaving through the crowd with urgency. The guests watched in confusion as the mysterious woman disappeared into the night. As she ran down the grand staircase, one of her sandals slipped from her foot. She hesitated for a moment, but the sound of the clock striking midnight spurred her on. She left the sandal behind and hurried into the waiting chariot. The prince reached the staircase just in time to see the golden chariot vanish into the distance, leaving only the lone sandal as a clue to the identity of the woman who had stolen his heart. He picked it up, his resolve firm. "I will find her," he vowed, his voice steady with determination. Back at home, Nia's gown faded, her sandals returned to their worn state, and the chariot vanished. She was left standing in her modest clothes, her heart racing but her spirit alight with hope. Though she had left the ball, she knew she had made an impression that could not be erased. Unbeknownst to her, the events of the evening had set into motion a chain of events that would change her life, and the kingdom, forever. The next morning, the royal palace was abuzz with activity. Prince Themba, still captivated by the mysterious girl from the ball, made a bold proclamation. He held up the delicate sandal she had left behind and declared, "I will marry only the woman whose foot fits this sandal. Let every eligible maiden in the kingdom be brought before me. The news spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the kingdom. Girls from all walks of life, eager for a chance at royalty, prepared themselves to present their feet to the prince. Among them was Amale, her confidence bolstered by Zula's scheming. At their home, Zula pieced together the truth. The mysterious girl who had captivated the prince could only have been Nia. Her mind raced with panic and anger. If Nia married the prince, it would not only elevate her to royalty, but also expose Zula's cruelty. She couldn't let that happen. Early that morning, Zula confronted Nia with venom in her eyes. "You think you can outshine my daughter? You think you can steal everything we've worked for?" "I've stolen nothing," Nia replied calmly, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. "All I've ever wanted is to live in peace." Zula scoffed. "Peace is for the weak. You'll never see the prince again." Before Nia could respond, Zula ordered 2 of her loyal servants to seize her. They dragged her to the old shed at the far end of the property, its walls brittle and covered in vines. The door slammed shut, and Zula locked it with a heavy chain. "You'll stay here," Zula sneered through the small window. "No one will hear you. No one will save you." Inside the dark, damp shed, Nia slumped to the ground. For a moment, despair threatened to consume her, but she refused to give in. The memory of the prince's kindness and the villagers' quiet support fueled her resolve. Meanwhile, Amale prepared herself to meet the prince. She wore her finest dress and practiced her best smile, convinced she could deceive him. "Mother," she said confidently, "when the prince sees me, he'll forget about that other girl." At the palace, Prince Themba began his search. One by one, girls from across the kingdom presented themselves, but none of their feet fit the sandal. The prince's frustration grew with each failed attempt. He could feel time slipping away, the connection he felt with the mysterious girl fading with every passing moment. When Amale's turn came, she stepped forward with a wide smile, her head held high. Zula, standing nearby, whispered encouragements. "You're perfect, my dear. He won't even notice the difference." Amale sat on the ornate chair, lifting her foot as the prince's attendant approached with the sandal. But as the sandal was placed against her foot, it became painfully clear. It was too small. The prince's expression hardened. "You are not the one," he said firmly, his disappointment evident. Amale's face flushed with humiliation. "There must be some mistake," she stammered, glancing at Zula, who looked equally mortified. "No mistake," the prince replied, turning to his attendant. "Bring the next." Back in the village, Nia's absence had not gone unnoticed. The villagers, who admired her resilience and kindness, began to whisper among themselves. "Where is Nia?" one woman asked. "She deserves her chance." "She's locked away," another whispered, her voice tinged with anger. "That wicked Zula is keeping her from meeting the prince." The villagers, united by their love for Nia, devised a plan. Under the cover of night, a small group made their way to the shed. Armed with tools and determination, they worked quietly to break the lock. Inside, Nia heard the faint sound of metal against metal. Her heart leaped with hope. Moments later, the door creaked open, and she was met with the smiling faces of her neighbors. "Come quickly," one of them urged. "The prince is still searching." Nia thanked them, her gratitude shining in her eyes. She didn't waste a moment, running toward the palace as fast as her feet would carry her. At the palace, the prince was on the verge of despair. He had nearly given up hope when a commotion near the gates caught his attention. Nia, her hair wild and her dress modest, entered the grand hall, her chest heaving from the effort of running. Gasps filled the room as everyone turned to look at her. "Who are you?" the prince asked, stepping forward. "My name is Nia," she said, her voice steady, despite the nerves coursing through her. "And I believe that is my sandal." The prince's heart raced as he signaled for his attendant to bring the sandal. Nia sat down, slipping her foot into it with ease. It fit perfectly, as though it had been made for her, and it had. The room erupted in murmurs, but the prince silenced them with a raised hand. He knelt before Nia, taking her hand in his. "You are the one I've been searching for," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Will you honor me by becoming my queen?" Tears filled Nia's eyes, not from sadness, but from overwhelming joy. "Yes," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. In that moment, the years of hardship and cruelty melted away. The villagers who had supported her cheered, their faith in Nia vindicated. Zula and Amali, watching from the shadows, were left speechless. Zula's plans had not only failed, but had also paved the way for Nia's ascension. The prince stood, lifting Nia to her feet. "Today marks a new chapter for this kingdom," he declared, his voice carrying through the hall. "And for all of us who believe in justice and love." As the crowd erupted in celebration, Nia realized that her journey had only just begun. The struggles she had faced had not broken her. They had prepared her to be the queen she was destined to become. As Nia's marriage to Prince Themba was announced, the royal court buzzed with excitement. The entire kingdom had come to witness the culmination of Nia's journey from a humble, mistreated girl to a beloved princess. Yet, amidst the celebration, a darker truth still lingered, one that Nia knew could not go unnoticed. Zula and Amal, though silent, could feel the weight of the prince's gaze upon them. Their schemes had been unraveled, and now their deceit was laid bare for all to see. The prince, ever vigilant, had called for a formal assembly to address the events of the past days, including the revelation of Nia's true identity as the mysterious girl from the ball. In the grand hall, the atmosphere was tense. Zula and Amali stood at the center, their heads held low, their once proud demeanor now shattered. Surrounding them were the villagers, those who had long known of Zula's cruelty and Nia's kindness. They were about to have their say. One by one, the villagers came forward to testify, their voices strong and clear. An elderly woman who had witnessed Nia's hardships from the beginning spoke first. "I have seen how Zula treated that poor child," she said, her eyes narrowing with righteous anger. "Nia was made to do all the work, while her stepsister was spoiled. Zula spread lies about her, calling her cursed, but all Nia ever did was show kindness to others. I've seen her feed the hungry, care for the sick, and help those in need." A man from the village stepped forward next, his voice steady but full of conviction. "I watched Zula lock Nia away in that shed, so she could prevent her from seeing the prince. Amale tried to deceive the prince, but she failed. It was Nia who deserved to be here today." Each testimony piled upon the last, painting a clear picture of Zula's cruelty and Amali's complicity. The once strong, manipulative woman had now become the villain in a story that had captivated the entire kingdom. Nia, standing at the prince's side, watched as the truth unfolded. She was no longer the helpless girl who had been mistreated. She was the future queen of this kingdom, and the people's loyalty now lay with her. When the final villager had spoken, the prince rose from his throne. His gaze was cold and unyielding as he looked towards Zula and Amale. "You stand before me, not as honored guests, but as criminals," Prince Themba said, his voice commanding the attention of the entire room. "Your cruelty has not only harmed Nia, but also dishonored this kingdom. The people of this land know the truth now, and I will not tolerate such deceit." Zula's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out, but there was none. Her past actions had caught up with her, and her once powerful position had crumbled. Amala, standing beside her, looked equally defeated. "You are both hereby banished from this kingdom," the prince declared, his voice unwavering. "Leave at once and never return. You have no place in the land that Nia will rule." The court murmured in agreement, the villagers nodding in approval. Zula and Amale were led out of the hall, their faces filled with a mixture of disbelief and fury. The prince's decision was final. As they left the palace grounds, Zula's heart burned with rage, but there was no escaping the consequences of her actions. Her quest for power had ended in disgrace. Amale, once her ally, was now nothing more than a shadow of the girl who had tried to deceive the prince. The two women would leave the kingdom with nothing, no title, no wealth, and no future. Back in the palace, Prince Themba turned to Nia, his face softening. "This is your victory," he said, his voice gentle. "You have shown us all what true strength and kindness look like. The kingdom is yours to rule." Nia smiled, her heart light with relief and joy. The past was behind her now, and the future was filled with promise. With the prince by her side and the support of the people, she knew she would be a queen who ruled with fairness, wisdom, and compassion. The kingdom was ready for a new era, one where cruelty had no place, and kindness would always reign supreme. And so, the downfall of Zula and Amale marked the beginning of Nia's rise to the throne, a reign that would be remembered for generations to come. The day had come. The sun bathed the kingdom in a golden hue as the people gathered to witness the most anticipated event in their history, the crowning of Nia as their queen. The palace, which had once been a symbol of oppression under Zula's rule, now stood as a beacon of hope, light, and prosperity. Nia stood before the throne, her heart racing with a mixture of joy and responsibility. Prince Themba, now her husband, stood beside her, his hand gently placed on her shoulder. His eyes gleamed with pride as he looked at her, his queen, his equal, the woman who had endured so much to claim her rightful place. The ceremony was simple, yet profound. The royal court and villagers filled the hall, all eager to witness the moment that would change the course of their kingdom's future. The royal crown, a symbol of the land's legacy, was placed upon Nia's head, and with that, she was crowned Queen Nia, the ruler who would bring compassion and justice to her people. As the crown touched her head, a wave of emotion swept over her. It wasn't just a victory for her. It was a victory for everyone who had stood by her, for the people who had believed in her, and for those who had suffered in silence under Zula's tyranny. It was a moment of triumph, a symbol of resilience. The entire kingdom cheered. The sound of their applause filled the air, reverberating through the palace walls and beyond. The people had witnessed Nia's strength, her kindness, and her unwavering spirit. They knew that under her reign, they would flourish. With Prince Themba by her side, Nia took her place at the throne, her heart full of gratitude for the path that had led her here. It wasn't just about becoming queen. It was about the promise she had made to herself and her people, to rule with justice, to uplift the weak, and to lead with compassion. Nia's first act as queen was to announce a series of reforms aimed at improving the lives of the kingdom's people. She spoke passionately about her vision for the future. "We are a kingdom built on kindness, on strength, and on the bonds that tie us together," she began, her voice carrying with authority and grace. "I will work to ensure that no one goes hungry, that every child receives an education, and that the less fortunate are never forgotten. We are all a family here, and it is our duty to look after one another." The people of the kingdom listened in awe. They had never heard a ruler speak so earnestly, so humbly. It was clear that Nia was not driven by a desire for power, but by a deep sense of responsibility to her people. Over the following months, Queen Nia set to work on her reforms. Schools were built in villages across the kingdom, ensuring that children, regardless of their background, had access to education. Food distribution systems were established to make sure that no one went hungry, and medical care became available to even the most remote areas. Nia also focused on restoring the dignity of the people who had been oppressed by Zula's actions. She worked with the villagers, listening to their needs, and ensuring their voices were heard. The kingdom began to heal, and the people grew to love and trust their new queen even more. But Nia, despite all her triumphs, was not one to harbor resentment. She knew that forgiveness was the key to moving forward. And so, after much contemplation, she made the difficult decision to forgive Zula and Amale. She invited them to the palace, where they stood before her, humbled and broken. Zula, once a woman of power and manipulation, now appeared frail and lost. Amale, who had once been a spoiled girl consumed by jealousy, seemed small and insignificant in comparison to the woman Nia had become. "You have caused great harm, and I will not forget that," Nia said, her voice calm but firm. "But I believe in redemption, and I believe that everyone deserves a chance to change. You will not have the power to harm anyone again, but I will give you the opportunity to live in peace, far from this kingdom." Zula, her face flushed with shame, nodded silently. Amale looked at Nia, her eyes filled with regret. "I am not here to punish you, but to show you that kindness and mercy are stronger than hatred," Nia continued. "Leave this place and live the rest of your lives in quiet reflection. You will never have the chance to hurt anyone again." And so, Zula and Amale were sent away, their fates sealed by their own actions. They would never return to the kingdom, and the people would never again be subjected to their cruelty. The kingdom, under Queen Nia's rule, entered an era of peace and prosperity. The people celebrated her wisdom, her strength, and her unwavering commitment to their well-being. One evening, as the sun set behind the palace, Nia and Prince Themba stood on the balcony, watching as the people below celebrated in the streets. Music filled the air, and the joyous laughter of the villagers echoed through the kingdom. It was a celebration of Nia's triumph, a celebration of her rise to greatness. "Do you think they'll ever forget where we've come from?" Prince Themba asked, his arm around Nia's shoulders. "No," Nia replied softly, "but that's not what matters. What matters is where we're going. Together, we will build a kingdom that is just, kind, and prosperous for all." And as they stood together, looking out over the kingdom that was now theirs to rule, Nia knew that the struggles of the past had shaped her into the leader she was meant to be. She had triumphed over adversity, and now she was ready to lead her people into a future of peace and prosperity. The kingdom was alive with hope, and Queen Nia had proven that even the greatest of challenges could be overcome with love, kindness, and unwavering determination.